Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am Sean. Today I'm doing another book haul. Most of these books I got for free because I am being really selective now about any books I buy. One is I just do not have much space for them. So my book buying has gone way down. Some of these books I've had for like half a year or more. But I finally have enough to do a book haul video, so let's get into it. First, with some unsigned books, we got The Red Badge of Courage by Stephen Crane. This is a book on the top 1000 list, 1000 Books to Read Before You Die by James Mustick. I recall trying to read this in high school, and I remember just reading a couple pages, so you could see even in high school I was very much the same as now. But what I recalled is I didn't like it at all, and I had to do a book report on this book. So like when I went up to talk to the English teacher about this book, he said something like, so what did you think about like the parallel or something about like the main character? His initials are JC, like Jesus Christ. And I was just like, oh yeah, sure, because I mean I didn't even like get that far into the book. So it is a top 1000 book, so I want to give it a try now. Who knows, maybe potentially I'll like it. I do like that it's relatively short and pretty decent sized font too. So we'll see how it goes. I'm pretty pessimistic about it though. Next is Time and Again by Jack Finney. This must be a book on the top 1000 list. I have like never even heard of this book. I didn't even like know I had this. But one thing I see is it's really small font. So do not know anything what to expect about it, but I'm just kind of guessing I will not like it. But I am almost certain I got this book for free and it's a top 1000 book. So why not? Going to give it a try at some point. Next is The Hunchback of Notre-Dame by Victor Hugo. This I am certain is a book on the top 1000 list. I'm pretty sure. No, apparently this is not a book on the top 1000 list. The book by Victor Hugo that's on the top 1000 list is Les Miserables, or Les Miserables, or whatever it is. I recall reading like the first couple chapters of that book, and I think the first chapter I was like, oh, you know, maybe this is decent. But then the second chapter, maybe I was just like, this is completely boring. The thing about The Hunchback of Notre-Dame is I've heard that this book is like Victor Hugo's kind of love letter to Notre Dame Cathedral. So he just spends like pages talking about like the cobblestone walkways or just whatever. He's just on and on describing in detail like the architecture of this cathedral. So that just sounds very boring. One thing I'm also really reluctant about is I actually know like how this book ends because I've read like the synopsis of it, which, you know, I really shouldn't have done that. But I think part of why I did it is because I've just heard the book is so freaking boring, just like pages on end talking about like describing the cobblestone of the cathedral. And I was just boring. So I kind of wanted to see like, okay, well, what is the actual story about? And especially because I remember liking I guess it's a Disney cartoon, one of the great Disney cartoons that's really an underrated show. But I mean, that antagonist in that cartoon or whatever is just so perfect. I love that movie. You know, I haven't seen it in probably like 15 years or more. But yeah, definitely an underrated cartoon or whatever. But yeah, so I recall the actual cartoon, you know, has a much better ending. The ending of the novel is really depressing and just like, no. So yeah, that kind of sucks. It's like, I know the book is going to be very long-winded and tedious, and I know it's going to have a really terrible ending. So I'm pretty, you know, pessimistic about this book because of that, but I want to give it a try. It's a fairly big book with pretty small font, so I don't know. This is probably going to be a case where I'm just going to say, like, you know, I respect that the author's really prominent, but the cartoon is way much better. Next is also probably a book I got for free because I just don't know anything about it. Like I would not have paid for this book. The Berlin Stories by Christopher Isherwood. I imagine this has to be a top 1000 book. I've seen a lot of Isherwood books at the bookstore, but, never read them, so wanted to give it a try. And yes, it is a book on the top 1,000 list. So really don't know what to expect, but probably not expecting to like it going into it just because I don't know anything about it or the author. So I'm going to, of course, give the writer every chance to pull me in, I don't know, maybe I'll like it, but we'll see. But I'm just kind of expecting not to. We'll see how it goes. Next, again, a book I probably didn't pay for, but it's on the top 1,000 list. The Letters of Vincent van Gogh. I think that's how to pronounce it. I don't know. That's how they pronounce it in Doctor Who. So I just kind of imagine that's the right way to pronounce it is Van Gogh, even though I've always heard it Van Gogh. And while I mentioned the Doctor Who episode, that is one of my favorite episodes of all time. I've never actually seen the episode. I've just seen like the clip, maybe it's at the end of the show or whatever, where they take Van Gogh to a modern museum to show him like his artwork. And basically the story behind it is I think Van Gogh sold one painting in his life and he thought he was a failure. He thought no one liked his art. And the one painting he sold was like $10 or something to a relative or something. So he struggled with depression and stuff. And there's also a controversy that I think the popular story is that Van Gogh shot himself. But the bookstore owner says there's actually like some kind of theory or something that maybe like some kids shot him or something. And since he didn't want them to get blamed for his death, he said something like he shot himself. So there's kind of some argument that maybe he didn't like kill himself or whatever. Maybe he said he shot himself to protect the kids. I don't know. So there's that story as well. But anyway, about the Doctor Who episode. So Van Gogh like lived his whole life thinking he was a failure, thinking no one liked him, no one appreciated his art. And, he died that way. He died thinking he was a failure. And now he's one of the most celebrated artists of all time. And so in the Doctor Who episode, they take him to the present day to show him in the museums, how much he is loved today. And I'm already starting to cry. I love that episode so much. It makes me cry all the time because it's just, it's so, I don't know, relatable to me. And also from like a mild personal standpoint, I have my books and, no one really reads them. And so I kind of wonder sometimes, like, is anyone ever going to appreciate these things, these books I write? And so Van Gogh is kind of a little bit of an inspiration for me, struggling with depression and just kind of thinking like, one day people are going to love what you did, but he didn't get to experience that in his lifetime. He didn't get to know how much he would be appreciated. And that's kind of something I feel for myself is I really procrastinate a lot with my books because it's just a lot of work for nothing kind of. Like I'll spend like 5 years working on a book and no one will read it. I mean, some of my books I think have gotten 0 sales. So it's to do all that work for nothing. It's just like, why even bother with this? But if I was to know like someday they would be appreciated or whatever, even if it's not in my lifetime, that would give me motivation to do it. But since I don't know that, since no one seems to care about my books, it's like, well, why bother writing? I should just do something for myself, just play a video game or whatever. If I knew someone would appreciate my books, I'd want to work harder on them, so those people would be able to have them and have more of my books and stuff. So anyway, that Doctor Who episode, I really relate with it personally. And, I don't want to like, make any aspirations that one day I'll be like, Van Gogh or whatever. I'm kind of expecting no one will ever know or care about my books, which is okay. I still write them kind of just for myself, but I just really love that Doctor Who episode very much. Anyway, I don't know anything about this book, The Letters of Van Gogh. So I'm imagining it's real, but I don't know. I mean, potentially, is it fictional versions of his letters? I mean, that's probably not the case at all. It must be his letters. I don't know what to think going in, because I don't really like this kind of stuff. I don't like, letters or correspondence or whatever of people. I don't like autobiographies very much. I'm not really into biographies either. I think they're good if you're like really obsessed about the person. If you're like a really devoted fan of the person, I could see more, getting into that kind of stuff. If you just want to know everything about Van Gogh or whatever, if you never even knew his letters were available, that could be very interesting to actually read, the guy's letters. But for me personally, it's like, I don't really care, really. What am I supposed to do? Like read a letter, one of the letters, and think like, oh, this is a great letter, I'm going to give this a 5-star rating because of this letter. I like reading just sort of like to study the craft of like literary fiction and stuff, to study writing. I don't really read for like, I don't know. There's just something about me. I don't like autobiographies or memoirs, really. I think people's lives is their own business. It shouldn't be something that's commercialized. So like Van Gogh, I mean, these letters, I assume, were not written to be publicly read. They weren't written for us. They were written for whoever he wrote them to. So to me, I kind of think that's really kind of invasive. Like, he didn't intend these letters to be read by us. These aren't for us. This is his private life, and people's lives is their own business. Even if he's a real historical figure or whatever, if people want to know about his life or whatever, I just kind of think it's not our business. His life was his own. It's not for us to, whatever. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'll give it a try at some point. Who knows? Maybe potentially I'll like it. Maybe it'll get me more into Van Gogh. I don't know anything about him really, like personally or whatever. I've never like read up on him really. I just know those couple things about the Doctor Who episode and about like the rumors about his death and stuff. But anyway, yeah. Next, I do not think I... Oh, wow. Is this signed? I guess it is. Wow, it's signed. I didn't know that. I bought this thinking it wasn't signed. Or if I bought it at all. But it's Rule of the Bone by Russell Banks. Oh, and there's a sign sticker there. So yeah, I must have known this was signed. Russell Banks is one of my favorite authors for a book I have up by him up here somewhere. The Sweet Hereafter. That's a book on the top 1000 list. The Sweet Hereafter, I've never heard of Russell Banks before, or The Sweet Hereafter. But that book, The Sweet Hereafter, was one of the best books I have ever read. It's a work of art. So if you've watched my channel before, you may like have like an impression of me that, oh, Sean, he doesn't like anything, he is a really critical reader. He DNFs so many books, whatever. He dislikes so much of what he reads, whatever, which is all true. I mean, I freely admit that. I'm a real critical reader. But The Sweet Hereafter is one of those books where I absolutely praise that book, where, I sing that book's praises. The Sweet Hereafter, just a beautiful book, a work of art, one of the best books ever written that I've read, just truly one of my top 10 favorite books ever. Beautiful book, The Sweet Hereafter. So because of that, that instantly made Russell Banks a must-buy, must-read author for me. And that's kind of how I am. If I read something that really impresses me, I will be like a automatic buy. If I see a book by someone who wrote a book that it's just like a phenomenal book, like a couple of them here on the shelf, Walter Moore's over here and Tim O'Brien over here, both of them wrote like classic all-time books for me, and as a result I buy every book they write, no matter what. And so Russell Banks, because of The Sweet Hereafter, he entered that tier. Now, I have tried a couple other books by him. I believe the first one was, what's it called? I don't know. Oh, I could just check his bibliography maybe. Oh, I remember. I think Affliction was the book I read. I have a signed copy of that book, so I tried reading it like shortly after reading The Sweet Hereafter, and I did not like Affliction at all. I also have a book of his, The Reserve, a signed copy of that. I have not tried reading that yet. I have a couple like short stories of his, like it's a Permanent Member of the Family. He also wrote a book called Angels on a Tin Roof, maybe, which I have somewhere. I don't know where. There's also this book, Cloud Splitter, down here. I have a signed copy of that book. And I tried reading that either this year or last year. I think probably last year. And that's basically a book about John Brown's son, John Brown, who led the raid on Harper's Ferry, like just before the Civil War. I didn't like that book either, so I've tried reading two other books by Russell Banks, Affliction and Cloud Splitter, and I didn't like either of them. But still, in spite of that, Russell Banks is a must-buy, must-read author for me, especially if I can find a signed copy of one of his books, like this one, Rule of the Bone. I do not know anything about it whatsoever. Russell Banks also just died a couple years ago, and it was really kind of sad in a way because I thought, just kind of out of the blue, like, I wonder if this guy is still alive. I would like to send this guy a message to let him know how much I loved The Sweet Hereafter. And then I like looked him up and I saw he died like 2 days before that. Maybe even the day before that. Possibly even that day. But yeah, it was like within a day or two of me looking that up because I was like, I'd really like to contact Russell Banks, to let him know, that book is masterful. But he was dead. So, anyway, yeah, it's a must-buy, must-read author. So a signed copy of Rule of the Bone by Russell Banks. Because I haven't liked the other couple books by him, it's definitely like slides in my to-read list. Mainly I bought it at this point just because it's Russell Banks and a signed copy. But presumably I would give it a read at some point. Oh, I really shouldn't have done that book yet because that's a signed book. So I guess I'm not doing like only signed books yet. I'll just kind of mix them up. Save that book till later, save that book till later. I guess I could do this book now because this is a book I kind of regret buying. It is V.E. Schwab, Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil, signed edition. So this is a book I bought. I bought it from Target. A few months ago, I was in another town at a bookstore and I saw a signed copy of this exact book. And I know V.E. Schwab is a real popular author and I've kind of been looking for her books for a little while, but I haven't seen any signed copies of her books until a few months ago. Well, actually at this point it was probably about 6 months ago. But when I saw it, I was like, well, I've never read her. I really have no intention of reading her. It's not a top 1000 author. So I passed on it because I was just, I'd like to have a signed V.E. Schwab book, but at the same time I was like, I don't want to pay for it. I don't like her that much. So at Target a few months ago, I saw this book, and it's kind of funny because Target used to have a lot of signed books, but really ever since COVID, Target hasn't had signed books. And this is like seriously one of probably like 5 signed books that I've seen at Target since 2020. And anyway, so when I saw it, I was just like, okay, this is probably just some sort of like karma or providence or something. God is telling me like, Sean, you passed on buying a signed book by V. Schwab once. Don't do it again. Because that has happened where I've passed on getting signed books and then I've kind of regretted it. Most famously, that was the case with Brandon Sanderson. There was a signed book at Target, one of his gosh, I don't even know what it's called. Like this series that's the Way of Kings series. It was like the 3rd or 4th book in that series. I saw it at Target and I passed on it because at the time I didn't really know of Brandon Sanderson. So I was like, well, I don't like fantasy, so I'll pass on that. Then I found out he's a real prominent author, and I went back to get it, and it was gone. So I always kind of regretted that. So then eventually I went on Sanderson's website, and I bought one of the books. I guess it's Skyward is the first book. And then I was like, I don't want to regret not buying more because the second book was available, so I got that too, signed. Then I think shortly after, maybe the 3rd book came out signed, and I was like, okay, I'll get that too. Then I saw like the 4th book signed, but at that point I was like, nope, I have 3 signed books by Brandon Sanderson. That's enough. I'm not buying any more. So anyway, V.E. Schwab. She's definitely an author where she's real popular, so it's kind of like she's in a tier where Personally, I don't like her, or I've never read her. I have no interest in reading her, but she's a big enough author where it's like, you know, it's a notable signed book. Now, what's kind of makes me even more regretful about buying this is apparently this is not a very well received book. A lot of her fans, I think, are kind of really down on this book, and V.E. Schwab might be kind of losing popularity. So I'm not sure if like I'm glad I have this. This is pretty much already a signed book where I don't care anything about it really. So it's kind of a book I regret buying, but mostly I bought it just because I didn't want to regret passing on another chance to get a V.E. Schwab book. So if I do ever do a book unhaul, like a signed book unhaul, this might be one I get rid of just because I don't really care. But still, it's V. Schwab. She's a pretty popular author, so whatever. At least I have it. And maybe I'll hold on to it for a while and then just decide, yeah, I don't care. Get rid of it. Next, I have checked this one several times to see if it's signed because I've been looking for a signed book by this guy forever, and I'm just have to check it again to be sure. Nope, it's not signed, which I knew. But anyway, it's not a top 1000 book, but it is Free to Choose by Milton Friedman. So Milton Friedman is like a conservative right-wing economist, and I love Milton Friedman. I have watched a ton of Milton Friedman videos on YouTube, and pretty much all the videos I've seen by him, he really just quotes a lot of this book. So I can like open this book at random and I could read a line and realize like, oh, yep, I've seen a video where he said that exact line. So like in a lot of his like conferences or whatever, his speeches on YouTube, he's really often just like quoting lines from this book. So I don't know. I'm glad to have it. Really, I would want a signed book by him just because I like him. But this was free. The bookstore owner, you know, he was going to discard it because it's in pretty poor shape. So I just saved it from the donation bin because I was like, oh, Milton Friedman, I'll take it. So yeah, I like it. One thing I'll say about Milton Friedman, now I don't want to delve into politics really, but like I say, Milton Friedman was a right-wing conservative guy, so you know, basically he's a Republican. And one of the big things Milton Friedman talked about was Friedman was very adamantly against tariffs, and like it's called protectionism. So Friedman was very much of the position that we should have free trade, and he has a lot of videos where he's talking extensively about tariffs and why they don't work and why you should just have a free market system. And so basically it's kind of getting into like the whole thing with Trump, because Trump loves tariffs. So a lot of Republicans now are all like, yeah, tariffs, let's go, more tariffs and all this stuff. And I'm one of the rare ones where I'm like, no, don't you guys know anything about economics? Like, watch Milton Friedman. Friedman talks all about this. He talks about like countries imposing tariffs on us, so what we should do in return. And he's directly talking about all these things Trump is doing today, but he's talking about it like in the 1980s or whatever. So yeah, I've definitely gotten like in some arguments with some of my more conservative family members who are all like really pro-Trump, where I'm like, no, tariffs are a left-wing ideology. Trump is a Democrat on tariffs. And they just don't really accept that. And it's kind of funny because now like all the Democrats are really opposing tariffs, and tariffs are a Democrat idea. So I just think it's kind of amusing. Again, I don't want to get into politics, but yeah. Next, also an unsigned book, is Graham Greene, May We Borrow Your Husband and Other Comedies of the Sexual Life. So this is not a top 1000 book, but Graham Greene is also kind of at this point a must-buy, must-read author for me. I've read, I think probably maybe 5 or 6 of his books now. Some of the more notable ones are Our Man in Havana. That was a decent book. There's also The Power and the Glory. That's a book on the top 1000 list. I like that pretty well. I've read his first book, which was called something, The Man Within. I thought that was a so-so book. Brighton Rock, I tried reading that. I just didn't really like that one. Then I tried also reading Orient Express. It's also called Stamboul Train. I didn't like that one really either. Graham Greene is a very peculiar author for me because I don't really like most of his books. Like, as I read them, I'm not too much into them. I'm just like, this isn't very good. And usually for like 75% into the book, I may not really quite know what's going on. But then about the 50%, 75% mark, I'll begin to like figure out like, okay, this is what the book is about. And these are the themes of the book or whatever. And then usually I'm kind of hoping it'll build up to some kind of real good conclusion to make it all worthwhile. But it usually doesn't. So the endings are just kind of like, maybe the endings are even bad. But in spite of that, I've liked reading Graham Greene more than I haven't liked it. I don't know, there's just something about him that I enjoy, and I really cannot say what. Because I don't really like his like writing, his actual prose. I don't like his dialogue too much. I don't really too much like his characters or his characterization, his settings, his themes, his humor, whatever humor there is. I don't know, there's just nothing I can really say about Graham Greene that I like or that I think is very good. But in spite of that, I have actually kind of liked reading his books. Like when I finish them, I'm not thinking, oh, that was a waste of time. I think, yeah, that was a decent book. I want to read another Graham Greene book. So it's really weird. And there's really no other author I could compare that to where I could say I've had similar feelings. So yeah, he's an author where I can't really say I like anything about him, but I still like him. But at the same time, I read his books and I'm like, this isn't very good. But then when I read them, I'm like, that's okay. I want to read another one. So it's really peculiar to me and just really strange. I cannot explain it, but that's just the way I feel. And now Graham Greene is in that tier where if I see a book by him that I have not read, that I do not have, I want it. So I think that's really the main, like, compliment or whatever you could pay to a writer. Like if you see their book, if you want to read it, or if you want to read another book by that author, they've done a good job. If you see their book and you don't want to try another book by them, then, the door is closed on that. So the door is definitely open on Graham Greene for me. Next, an unsigned book. It's The Memoirs of Hadrian by Margaret Yourcenar. Why do people have names like this? Marguerite your Anyway, The Memoirs of Hadrian. This is a book on the top 1,000 list. I do not know anything about it. I do not know if it's nonfiction or fiction. I do not know what this book is. My dad bought this book for me, like before I was going to do my surgery for hernia, before I was going to go under the knife. He bought this book, kind of something for me to read while I recover, but I never got around to it. But anyway, I've had it on my pile of new books for a while. So, yep, The Memoirs of Hadrian. Do not know anything about it or what to expect. We'll see. Really, no expectations whatsoever going in. I don't really even know about Hadrian. I mean, I know he was like the Roman emperor. I know he had the thing with Hadrian's Wall in, the border with Scotland or whatever. But that's pretty much all I know about him. So, yep. Next, ooh, this one's pretty cool. I just have to check to make sure it's not signed because that would freak me out. But it is 2001, A Space Odyssey by Arthur C. Clarke. This is not on the top 1,000 book list. The top 1,000 book is Childhood's End, which I do have a copy of. But 2001, A Space Odyssey is kind of, maybe more a little bit popular than Childhood's End. I do not know if that's true at all. But for me, I mean, I just know of 2001. I don't really know of Childhood's End, you know? So yeah, I have never seen the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey, which was directed by, I'm drawing a blank on his name. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, K. L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. I don't know. His name isn't coming off to me on hand. Oh, it says it on the book. Stanley Kubrick. I thought it was a K. But yeah, so I have never seen that movie, but I have a signed book by Arthur C. Clarke somewhere. Oh, right up here. 2010 A Space Odyssey. Is that 2010? 2010 A Space Odyssey. Odyssey 2. So yeah, a signed book by Arthur C. Clarke. That's really cool. I got that about a year ago. I was really excited about that because Arthur C. Clarke is kind of considered one of the big three of science fiction. I guess there was Arthur C. Clarke, Isaac Asimov, and Robert A. Heinlein. They were kind of the big three of the time. And so yeah, between all of these books, well, I mean, really, there's only the two. There's Childhood's End and 2001. 2001 is more the book I'd be interested in, but I do need to read Childhood's End, since that's the book on the top 1000 list. So anyway, but yeah, this is definitely a book where I'll want to like it, especially because I have a signed book by him. This is probably more the book I would be more likely to enjoy, because I will also want to see the 2001 movie after reading this, but I want to try the book first. So I'm just hoping that, yes, this is a classic, and as a result, I like the signed book I have by him even more. I think the actual story behind 2001 is, I think he was kind of writing it while they were making the movie. So I do not think this was a case where he wrote the book and then they made a movie adaptation of it. I think he basically was writing the movie as they were going. And yeah, but I mean, really, it did come from the brain of Arthur C. Clarke. So it's not just like a book, a book adaptation of a movie. So I mean, he was writing 2001 as they were making it, if that makes sense. So yeah, 2001: A Space Odyssey, unsigned, but I do have the signed book by him, so that's real sweet. Next, I'll actually go with these books together, because I got them almost a year ago, I think. That's how long I've been building this backlog of books, because like I say, I just haven't been getting very many new books, especially buying books. But these are a couple books I got. I was in another town, and usually whenever I go to another town, to another bookstore, I always buy books from that bookstore, just to support other bookstores and stuff, to support bookstores, because I'm really big on that, especially because as a writer, I realize how vital bookstores are, even though nowadays a lot of people may just be reading ebooks and stuff. I am still like old-fashioned, I love bookstores, so I'm always going to support them. So anyway, these are both top 1000 books. There's A. Milne, Winnie the Pooh, and then there's also Peter Pan by J.M. Barrie. So yeah, they're just real nice books, nice edition books. Once I read them, I'll probably just get rid of them or donate them or just trash them or whatever, just because I don't have the space really to keep these. So I really just bought them to support the other bookstore, and because they're top 1000 books, I need to read them. So it's just a way to kind of kill two birds with one stone. I get to support a bookstore, and I get to get a couple books on the top 1000 list. But I don't want to keep them because I just don't have space for them. But they're real nice books, real pretty books. But yeah, I don't buy books just to like have them pretty and look pretty on my shelf, I pretty much only keep books that I want to collect or books that I've yet to read, or in the very rare case, books that are like just my all-time favorite books. But even those I'm kind of whittling down just because I just don't have space for it. Okay, and now we're down to the final 3 books. So first is, and they're all signed, first is Christopher Paolini, Murtagh, signed book. So I saw this at the bookstore probably maybe 2, possibly 3 months ago. So probably like, I don't know, probably 3 or 4 years ago, I saw a signed copy of one of Christopher Paolini's books. I'm not sure which book it was. It wasn't the first book, Aragon. It may have been, I don't know, Eldest and Brissinger, or Inheritance. It was one of those 3, Eldest, Brissinger, or Inheritance. I kind of want to say it may have been Brissinger. But anyway, I saw a signed copy of that book and I was like, I think I had read Aragon at that point. Yes, I definitely read Aragon at that point, the first book in the series. And my recollection was I liked it okay. I thought it was pretty good, especially for like a young writer, because Christopher Paolini wrote that book, Aragon, when he was like a teenager, or maybe not quite even a teenager. Maybe he was a young teen, but I think his parents may have had a publishing company or something, and so he published the book, and just kind of a small press publisher or whatever, and is just really successful. So even though I'm a little bit jealous of that, like, damn it, you know, why does he get to be so successful, you know, like, why can't that happen to me? But in spite of that, you know, I really, you know, support, you know, young writers and people trying to make it. I don't really care so much once people have success, you know. I am kind of the opinion that, you know, once you're successful, you've had enough success. I don't need to contribute to it very much more. But I really relate with, you know, people who are like, you know, underdogs and stuff, trying to succeed, trying to, you know, live out their dream, trying to attain their dream. You know, I really sympathize with that and I support that. So Paolini, you know, I really supported that, you know, he was this young kid, really, this young teen, whatever, writing this book, and I thought it was a pretty good book, especially for someone's first novel. So I had pretty positive thoughts about that book, Aragon, but I am not really a fan of science fiction or fantasy. This would be more fantasy. I'm not really a fan of that kind of genre too much, and I don't recall liking the book that much that I wanted to read more of it. But it's not a book where it's like, yeah, I don't want to read another one. It's just more, they're not for me. I mean, I enjoyed the first one well enough, but the second wasn't a must read. So anyway, this is, I think, the 5th book in the series. Maybe it's a spin-off. I don't know. I think it says World of Aragon. So it might kind of be a spin-off book. But yeah, so when I saw this, so anyway, I passed on the signed book by him, whatever the other book was, and I've always kind of regretted it. So when I saw this, like a new arrival at the bookstore, I was just like, okay, I need to get it. And it was pretty cheap anyway. I didn't pay very much for it. I definitely got it for probably like half off whatever the price was. So yeah, signed book by that guy. So I'm just glad to have it. I am kind of unhappy that it's such a big book, because I only bought it just for the signature, and it just happens to be a big book, so that takes up a lot of space. But still, I've wanted a signed book by this guy for a while, so I'm glad to have it. And I have a lot of like fantasy and sci-fi signed books. I don't want to like run through the list, but it's definitely a genre where I have a lot of signed books by really prominent authors. And Christopher Paolini is kind of in that prominent author tier. You know, he's not like quite to the level of like a J.R. Tolkien or George R. R. Martin or Robert Jordan. You know, he's not in that tier, but he's maybe in a tier below that. Next, let's see, I'm down to my final 2 books. I'm going to go with this one next. This is a signed copy of, what is it? Single and Single by John le Carré. So John le Carré is most famous for writing like spy novels. And what's funny is I began reading his book, The Spy Who Came In From the Cold. And, you know, I've always been on the lookout for a John le Carré book just because I know he's a real prominent author, like with books like The Spy Who Came In From the Cold and Tinker, Tailor, Soldier, Spy, something like that. And just a lot of his books, like real classic spy thriller books. And so I began reading The Spy Who Came In From the Cold, which is on the top 1,000 list. The very next day, I went to the bookstore and I saw, like, on the new arrivals, like waiting to be shelved, signed book by John le Carré, and I don't think I've ever seen a John le Carré signed book in the bookstore. So the day after I begin reading The Spy Who Came In From the Cold, I see this and I'm just like, oh God, I need it. So yeah, this is definitely a book where as soon as I saw it, I knew I had to buy it, like almost no matter the price. I mean, my limit would have been like, you know, I wouldn't have wanted to pay like more than $100 for it. I probably would have, but I don't think I paid anywhere close to that. I think I may have paid like 30 or $40 for this, which I think that's an outright steal because John le Carré, it's a real nice edition book. It's a specific signed edition book, so you know it's a legitimate autograph. And it kind of sucks because since it's wrapped, it's like if I want to see the autograph, I have to like open up the wrapping. So it's like I bought the book, but I can't even see the autograph because I don't want to open it. But yeah, so it's really a treasured autograph because le Carré, just a really classic master of like spy thriller. I mean, really, John le Carré may as well be like the father of the spy genre. He definitely wasn't like the first or anything, but he's probably the most beloved beyond. Oh, that reminds me, I actually have another signed book that for some reason was not on my list. I need to find that. Oh, I think I see it right up there. I forgot another book. So yeah, there is actually another spy thriller author who I recently got a signed book by, who I was just going to mention. And I was going to say, like, John le Carré is above this other author. So John le Carré is like God tier for like spy thriller. The only other author who would probably be on that list would be Ian Fleming, the author of the James Bond books. But yeah, either, I don't know, because personally, even though I didn't really like The Spy Who Came In From the Cold, I'll tag it like at the end of this video, my review for that book. Even though I didn't, well, I don't want to say I didn't like it. I had problems with it. Still, John le Carré is, to me, probably the greatest author of spy thrillers ever. So I was really stoked to get a signed book by him. And one thing I'll say about le Carré is reading his book, it really read like my first favorite author of all time, Clive Cussler. Just reading The Spy Who Came In From the Cold, the first chapter, my thought was, man, this reads exactly like a Clive Cussler book. Just his writing, his description, his use of dialogue, his pacing, it's all very much like Clive Cussler. So even though I think Clive Cussler's bigger influence may have been Alistair MacLean, who was another thriller writer, I really see a lot of John le Carré in Clive Cussler. So anyway, yeah, John le Carré, signed Single and Single. I don't know what this book actually is, if it's fiction or if it's an actual, like, autobiography or what. But anyway, I want to get the other book that I just remembered that I have. For some reason, I forgot to pull it off my new books list. Okay, and here we go. This is another one of my more recent book acquisitions. I do not know how much I paid for this one. Oh, not too much. So I probably paid about 20 or 30 bucks for this book, which is really not much, especially given the author and that it's a specific signed edition book. And ooh, first edition book. Is this the first? No, this isn't the first book in the series. But anyway, it is The Bourne Supremacy by Robert Ludlum, signed book. So that is really cool. I have been looking for, well, I wouldn't even say I've really been looking for a signed Robert Ludlum book, just because I didn't really expect to see any, and I like would have no clue what the market value for a Robert Ludlum signed book would be. I've just never seen a signed book by him. I have read The Bourne Identity, the first book, and ooh, I don't really fully remember my thoughts on it. I think I didn't like it for some reason or another. I do remember reading like 100 pages or something. Maybe potentially what my problem was I do not really like books about amnesia. Oh, I think I remember what my problem was. In that book, The Bourne Identity, the protagonist keeps acting like a spy. Like this guy wakes up with amnesia, but all his decisions are totally not natural. So like if I woke up and I had no memories and like I felt I was being hunted or whatever, the first thing I would do would be to go to the police. But this guy, Jason Bourne, he's like, I can't go to the police. That would be dangerous. But it's like, if you don't have any memory, why would you think going to the police would be dangerous? And just all his decisions, like he's really trying to keep a secret, like he's trying to sneak into this other country. And it's like, why? I mean, like, why wouldn't you just go to the hospital or go to an embassy or whatever and just be like, hey, I do not know who I am. You know, I speak this language, so, you know, I assume I may be one of your citizens or whatever. Why wouldn't you go to that government or whatever? Why wouldn't you just go to the authorities and be like, you know, help me? But instead he's like, oh no, I need to be secretive and I need to hide from law enforcement and I need to secretly enter this other country and I need to secretly infiltrate this bank and all this stuff. And he's just consistently acting like a spy. And my issue was just, why would he be doing that unless he like knew he was a spy? So I just had problems with that. Like his decisions did not seem natural to someone who would have amnesia. Like, why would your first thought be, uh-oh, I need to act like a super secret agent, you know? Why wouldn't you just think, oh, I need to go to the hospital? So that bothered me. That really killed the book for me. I thought it was really forced. And again, I do not like amnesia in books. So I just didn't really like that book because of it. But Robert Ludlum is a classic, you know, a master of the spy thriller genre. He would probably just be in a tier right below the previous guy, who was it? John Le Carré. And yeah, you know, Robert Ludlum would probably be like in a tier probably above Clive Cussler, even though personally I like Clive Cussler a lot more. Ludlum is probably more famous than Cussler. So to have a signed book by him, I think is really sweet. So I'm glad about that. And it wasn't very much at all, just paying like 20 or 30 bucks for it. So to me, I think that's a steal. So really glad to have that. Last of all, now for most people this would probably like be one of the more underwhelming books, but for me this is really cool. So when I saw this, I looked it up, you know, because first I saw it's a signed copy. So when I saw that, even though I didn't know this person, I was like, well, I'm gonna have to check them on Wikipedia, see who they are. And I think what I did is I read the front flap of the book, and one of the things it said really caught my attention super quick. But anyway, it is a signed book, Backbeat, Earl Palmer's story, signed by Earl Palmer. So Earl Palmer was a drummer of like classic early rock and like blues and stuff. So like the front flap of the book says, that's him playing drums on Little Richard's Tutti Frutti, Fat Dominoes, I'm Walking, and Lloyd Price's Lottie Miss Claudie on The Righteous Brothers, you've done blah, 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 blah. on Sam Cooke's Shake, You Send Me, and Twisting the Night Away. That right away made this a must-buy book. I don't know if I've mentioned him on my channel before, but I personally think Sam Cooke is the greatest vocalist of all time. A lot of people will say Freddie Mercury. I think Mercury may be more the greatest performer ever, maybe like right up there with Michael Jackson. But I think as far as like greatest vocalists ever, personally, I say Sam Cooke. I love Sam Cooke. So yeah, so this guy played drums for several Sam Cooke songs. So once I saw that, I knew like, I want this, I need this, to have some kind of a connection with Sam Cooke, one of my favorite singers ever. Like, I genuinely listen to Sam Cooke all the time. And so Earl Palmer actually played drums on a lot of famous songs. So what I'll do is I'll actually kind of scroll through some of those songs, because on YouTube I made a playlist of Earl Palmer songs. So like all of the songs Earl Palmer actually played drums for. So for all these songs, Earl Palmer is the one playing drums. So I just think that's really cool. So what I've been doing, especially in the last few days, because I've been playing a lot of Fallout 4, what I've been doing is I've been listening to this Earl Palmer playlist, because Fallout 4 is a video game that has like a lot of 60s music and stuff like built into the game. Like that's the soundtrack for the game. And so all of these songs are 60s music. So they would perfectly fit in a Fallout game. So it's really fun listening to all these songs where Earl Palmer is playing the drums while playing Fallout. It just seems like really fits that game to have these songs. These songs are perfect for that game. I want these songs in the next Fallout game. And I think Sam Cooke, they have to get him on the next Fallout game, because Sam Cooke is so good. So I mean, you have to get Twisting the Night Away and whatever else. Pay whatever you need to, Bethesda, and get Sam Cooke songs into Fallout 5, please. Something else I'll say about Sam Cooke, just because, whatever. So there's like a lot of controversy about how Sam Cooke died, because Sam Cooke was shot to death, and this was right around the time of like JFK's assassination and Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination, Malcolm X's assassination. They all happened within like a year or so of each other. So I just think that would be really devastating to have lived in that time. And just how many people were getting assassinated. JFK, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Sam Cooke, all getting shot to death. That would have been so disheartening to me. Just, you know, all these great people whose voices we should have had for decades going forward taken from us. And, you know, Sam Cooke, you know, it's hard to like pick him above any of those other guys, especially like Martin Luther King. But I don't know. I would be really tempted if I could save only one of them. I would really be tempted to have saved Sam Cooke, because he was just such a tremendous singer. And I'm going to start crying again, because just what humanity was robbed of, all the great music he could have came up with. But I don't know, that may be really a bad reason to like pick him above like Martin Luther King or even Malcolm X, just how much their voices are missed for especially the Black community. But I don't know, at the same time, I mean, Sam Cooke did things as well, because I mean, Sam Cooke helped bring this kind of music to white audiences and stuff. Because I mean, before then, a lot of white audiences may not have listened to Black musicians, but a lot of them would listen to Sam Cooke. So he definitely wasn't the only one, for sure. There were others for sure, like Little Richard. But Sam Cooke was definitely one of them where he helped bridge that gap. And he was just such a phenomenal singer and taken way too soon. So it's really devastating to me. You know, I really just hate all this stuff going on. And, you know, today, you know, nowadays, like Charlie Kirk and all that. It's just disheartening losing all these voices so soon, and just the violence and hatred people have. And just what they took from the world. It's just so sad. So anyway, with Sam Cooke, like I say, he was murdered. He was, well, I don't want to necessarily say he was murdered, but he was killed. He was shot to death. And the story behind it, it's really kind of a he said, she said thing. So basically what happened is he was at a hotel with a woman. Of course, there's a woman involved. And so basically what happened is Sam Cooke showed up in the manager's office, and he might have been naked, and he was like screaming like, "Where's the girl? Where's the girl?" And the motel owner like freaked out and shot him and killed him. And so basically the story this woman says, this woman who was involved, said that she went to Sam Cooke's, hotel room with him, and that he forced himself on her, and that when he went to the bathroom, she got her things and fled. But she says she accidentally took his wallet, just like in the rush to grab all her things. And so Sam Cooke's story or whatever, I mean, he was killed, but like, I don't know how to explain it basically, but the pro Sam Cooke side of the story is that this woman robbed him. So after he went to the bathroom and came out and saw that his wallet is gone, so he went to the manager's office asking where the girl was, and the manager freaked out because this guy is like naked saying, "Where's the girl? Where's her girl?" And so that person shot him. I do not think it might have been racial, because I think the motel owner might have been black as well. I think it might have been a black owned business. So I don't think it might have been a racially motivated shooting. I think it may have just been this guy showed up freaking out, screaming, naked, and they shot him. The woman shot him, I think. Not the woman who took the wallet or whatever, the manager or whatever, the owner of that motel. So yeah, I mean, it's really, who knows? I mean, maybe Sam Cooke was assaulting this woman and she just fled, and maybe she accidentally took his wallet, just grabbing her stuff and leaving. Maybe it was an accident. Maybe he was victimizing her, which is not a good thing for Sam Cooke. Or, maybe she was there voluntarily, whatever. I mean, she went to his hotel room with him. What did you think is going to happen? And, I don't know. So in situations like this, I try not to weigh judgment or whatever. It's not my place to judge. I kind of hope for the best, so I would not want Sam Cooke to be, assaulting this woman or whatever. So inherently, in part just because I love his music so much, I'm just hoping his side of the story was true, So I mean, put some clothes on before you leave the hotel room, or whatever, you're rich. I mean, so you got robbed, whatever. All those are better than, if he was actually assaulting this woman. But I mean, who knows? I mean, he could have. You never know. So yeah, that's how that is. So pretty much where I stand is whichever side is true, I kind of hope Sam Cooke is innocent. Whichever side is true, in spite of that, I still think he was a phenomenal talent taken too soon. It was just a tremendous loss. Even if the worst was true and he was doing that, I still would not have wanted him dead, and just taken so soon, and just such a talent. So that's kind of my opinion on it. That may be really unpopular. I mean, a lot of people may hear, if there's any allegations against assault or whatever, they may immediately side with, the victim or whatever, which is completely fine. I understand that totally. But in spite of all that, I think that's sort of a he said, she said thing, and who knows, which side is really true. In spite of that, I still insist Sam Cooke was a phenomenal talent. I think he is the greatest vocalist of all time, and I think his death was a major blow for humanity, really, and just the music he might have still came up with. He was still relatively young. I think he was only maybe in his early 30s, just taken way too soon, and just thinking, You know, his greatest hits, he may not have even had them yet. He may not have even like reached his peak. And so that's just really sad to me. You know, I've been crying this whole time just because, like I say, I really like Sam Cooke. I love his vocals. I think he's a phenomenal singer. I love him a lot. I listen to him a lot. So anyway, when I saw this, a signed book by a guy who played drums for a lot of Sam Cooke songs, including like Shake. That's one of my favorite songs. Shake has very much a modern feel. It doesn't feel like an older 60s song. The song Shake sounds more like almost like an 80s song where, you know, rock and roll is really starting to mature or whatever, or progress or whatever, where it's just more contemporary. Because a lot of kind of this older rock and roll stuff, you could tell it's a little bit older, but Shake sounds like a more modern song. So I love that song. You Send Me, just a great classic song. And I think that was like released just a few months after his death, which again just shows how much we were robbed. Just one of his greatest songs, released posthumously. Twisting the Night Away. Did I say Twist and Shout earlier? That's another song. But yeah, Twisting the Night Away. I think I said Twist and Shout. I'm sorry. Twisting the Night Away, great song. One way I know Sam Cooke is from the film Animal House. They have like 2, 3, or 4 Sam Cooke songs in that movie, Animal House. Great movie. So yeah, Twisting the Night Away, that's on Animal House. That's a great song. I love that. Oh, another one that Earl Palmer played drums for is Cupid. I love that song. He also played drums for Sam Cooke's song Soothe Me. That's another song. I really like every Sam Cooke song. There's not a Sam Cooke song I've heard that I don't like. What else was I going to say? The one that he did live. It's used for the opening of the film Ali with Will Smith. Bring It Home to Me. That song is just so great. This is something about Sam Cooke where, like the album version of that song, I don't want to say it's bad, but after listening to the live version, the album version of Bring It On Home to Me, the album version feels so, I kind of want to say bad. It's like, oh, you're destroying my boy, like look what they did to my boy, they butchered my boy. That's a Godfather reference. So yeah, it's really hard kind of to listen to the album version compared to the live version, which is from where was it, live at the, I think it's called the Apollo Club. It's not actually like the Apollo Club that's in like New York. It was actually like a club in Florida, I want to say. But yeah, that is something I highly recommend watching. I'll even like tag it at the end of this video if I can. I don't actually know if I could do that, where I could tag like other YouTube videos on my channel. I don't know if I could do that or only tag my own videos. But I'll try to tag the Bring It On Home to Me live version. You have to listen to that song. The way he performed it live compared to on the album is just so different, because it's like for that song live, he was playing it for his own people, but the album version, he was playing it more for the general audience, which is, you know, whites included. But listening to him performing that song for his own people, for a largely black audience, it was just so much better, and just his voice and everything, and just his energy. And it just shows why Sam Cooke was such a great performer. And another thing I'll say about the film Ali opening with that song, that was one of the first ways I found out about Sam Cooke. That may have been my introduction to Sam Cooke, was the film Ali. It opens with that song, and it's kind of like based on that actual live performance. But after like listening to the actual Sam Cooke and the actual version of that song live, I really cannot listen to the Ali version anymore, because the version they had, the guy they had playing Sam Cooke, the vocalist, I just do not think he did Sam Cooke justice at all, because Sam Cooke in that version, the original version, he had a real raspy quality to his voice, a gritty quality to his voice, kind of like a chain smoker. It's really kind of a deep quality. But the singer they had, the vocalist they had for the film Ali, was this real like smooth, almost like a pop singer, like a Jay-Z or an Usher guy. And it's just like, no, again, you're destroying my boy, you're slaughtering my boy, you butchered my boy. That song in Ali butchers Sam Cooke. I mean, if you listen to that song without knowing Sam Cooke, it may sound real good, like, oh man, this is a great singer, you know? I want to find out about this actual guy. Sam Cooke, though, he blew that singer away. That singer they did, that vocalist, I can't listen to it anymore. And it's just like, no, Sam Cooke has a really gravelly quality. It's raw. I mean, he's a great singer and he's smooth, but he's not just like a, you know, pop singer like that. I mean, Sam Cooke, he sings like he smokes like 40 cigarettes a day, but he's still a great singer. The singer they had singing on the Ali film has like a super smooth voice where it's like he's never smoked a cigarette in his life. So yeah, I just cannot listen to that version anymore. When I heard it and saw it and stuff the first several times watching that film, I loved it and it got me interested kind of in Sam Cooke. But then after listening to Sam Cooke for several years, when I went back and actually saw that Ali film, I was just like, oh, look what they did to my boy. They massacred my boy. So yeah, I would still recommend like watching the Ollie film, if only for that scene. Like, go ahead, like look up on YouTube like Ollie film opening, just to see how they work that song into the movie. And it's just really great. I love that movie, especially that introduction. And yeah, but anyway, main thing is definitely listen to the live performance of that song, Bring It On Home to Me. Just a phenomenal recording. If I could have a time machine, I would want to go and witness that concert and just be there for that moment. I don't know, I'd be kind of nervous though. Like, would I be the only white person in that crowd? I'd kind of be like, please don't murder me. I'm here to enjoy Sam Cooke. But yeah, so anyway, I'm just super excited when I saw this, a signed book, Earl Palmer. I'd never heard of him before, but when I saw how many songs he actually played for, and mainly playing for Sam Cooke, I'm really, stoked to have that. Just a classic, singer and stuff. And my dad actually really likes music, so I'm going to be curious to see what my dad's thoughts on this are, and if he knows Earl Palmer, like just by name, if he immediately knows who that is. But I'm sure my dad knows like almost all of these songs Earl Palmer played drums for. But yeah, I'll be curious to see if my dad actually knows Earl Palmer by name. And my dad, he's a big music guy. I did like for a split second consider like, oh, maybe I could get this book for my dad. But no, when I saw it's like, Sam Cooke, he played drums for Sam Cooke, I was like, nope, this is a book I'm getting for myself. I want this. So yeah. Yeah, I didn't really even buy it with plans to read it, but I guess I will. And also it's relatively short and it looks like an easy read. So I'll probably read it. And, especially I'll be interested in reading anything he says about Sam Cooke, if he does. And just all these songs he played for and stuff. So yeah, I am actually interested in this drummer now. And I have been listening to the Earl Palmer playlist on YouTube that I have quite a lot, playing Fallout 4, listening to Earl Palmer songs. So yeah, so I'm really excited to have this. It's really sentimental to me, having kind of some connection with Sam Cooke now. So when I listen to these songs, I will have that connection, like, oh, the guy playing drums on that song, I have a signed book by him, So like that little bit of this guy's life where he signed this book, I have, that connection with him. I have like that little piece of his life. So I just like having that connection. So anytime I hear any of these songs, I'll kind of feel connected to it. And I really like that. That's why I have a lot of signed books. It kind of just lifts my spirits. It's cool to me to be so close to so much history, so many authors and so many prominent people, presidents, vice presidents, prime ministers, authors, musicians like drummers, vocalists, movie stars, directors, actresses, just so many cool stuff I have. So I like having all these books, all these signed books. So they're real special to me. Anyway, that is it. Thank you guys for watching. Go Mariners. Hope to see you in another video. Bye.
2, 3, 4.